Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sunday School and to our virtual Jesse tree. So today we'll be talking about the next ornament on our tree, which is about one of the prophets, the prophet Isaiah. Father Marshall, can you tell us a little bit about Isaiah and what he told us, what he prophesied?
Isaiah is a really neat person because in the scriptures, he's actually three different people. First, Isaiah is often the one we think of and remember when we think about him in context with Christmas, because a lot of the prophecies that he offered make specific reference to some of the promises we see fulfilled when Jesus arrives in our midst. But oftentimes he's also remembered as the prophet of the exile, because the first prophet Isaiah, and then the other two who followed in his school, kind of like old classic painters. Each one of them spoke to a different era of the exile of Israel and Judah in Babylon. And the first one speaks about how they were going into exile and how God was going to be faithful with them in exile. The second one speaks to why they're in exile and gives them hope about a time that it will be ending. And then the third Isaiah tells about what it means for them to be going home. So, but first Isaiah is really important. And actually the story we hear when we do this ornament is actually the lesson that was read at my ordination to the priesthood. And often you'll hear that reading offered up, that the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord sitting in the temple. And Isaiah is that person who sees that. And he's terrified because he feels like he's an unclean person. But an angel flies to the brazier that sits with coals beside the altar for incense and takes a hot clod and touches it to his lips and says, "This has made you clean." And the prophet says, "Here am I, send me," which is a very courageous thing to say. Mm-hmm. So that's why we have this image, which is, in my case, it's a throne, but you guys have slightly different ones too, don't you?
Yes. So my image, one of the images he foretold was of the Jesse tree and of the Jesse stump, right? And from it came one branch, which is the branch from which Jesus would be born.
That's right. And that's that promise. And actually, there's another promise that he makes about a young woman giving birth to a Messiah, which is, of course, where we get to Jesus's family. But you have another one, don't you, Marissa?
Yeah, I actually drew a scroll because Isaiah was a prophet.
Mm-hmm. And the scroll is a very important thing. So actually, when Jesus is talking about himself and he's in the synagogue, he asks for the scroll of the prophet Isaiah. So there you go. So they all tie together to make Isaiah.
All connect. Yeah.
All right.
Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us today for the next ornament on our Jesse tree. And tune in tomorrow to hear about another story that I'm sure some of you already know. We'll hear it tomorrow.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.